Hey everybody. Today we are going to be 3D printing and injecting this 3-inch tube mold I made. Now tubes are a great bait for a lot of different types of fish. They can be fished in a lot of different ways. I made this particularly for smallmouth. Now this is a 3-cavity mold that prints in 6 different pieces. We're going to have a top and bottom half of the mold. This would be the bottom half, and we're also going to need 3 of these tube splines. Now this is going to create the hollow body of the mold and also the skirt. Now all the files needed for this are going to be free in the description, and next we're going to get into print settings and how to actually print one. We're going to be using Cure to slice up all 3 of these models. On the print bed here I have the male mold on the left. Now you're going to print that exactly as it is, pointing straight up. You don't need supports for any of these. You're going to print the female mold the same way, and you're going to have the 3 tube splines pointing straight up as well. You don't have to print these all at the same time. You can do it in 3 different times. It's up to you. I can't fit both the top and bottom mold on my print bed. The only settings that I recommend you change are you're going to change the wall top and bottom settings to at least 7. So far for me that's worked pretty good. I'm printing in ABS. If you're using a lower temperature material, you might have to increase that or the infill to stop it from melting or blowing out or cracking. Personally, I wouldn't recommend using PLA. I would at least jump up to PETG, or PLA Plus might be an acceptable substitute. We're going to shoot the mold now. This is one of the 3 splines I was talking about. This is the 3rd or 4th version I've made. I had a couple issues with the first version and the second version. And this is one of the halves of the mold. Now, I've shot these a few times before already. I usually grease these up with Pam. I've already done this, but you just want to spray it pretty good so that the plastisol doesn't stick to it. Now, I'm going to be reheating some used plastisol. This is Dead On Plastic's Worm Blend, and it's got black dye in it with a purple pearlescent. I'm not sure how well that's going to show up on the camera. Now, I believe I put it in for 1 minute and 45 seconds here. You're going to want to heat it up enough to get everything melted and mixed properly. The heating instructions are going to be different depending on what plastisol you're using and everything. I'm just putting the mold together here. It goes exactly as I did it. You're going to want to really crimp the bottom down. I'm using these spring clamps, but I don't think they're really good enough. Next time, I'm just going to put the bottom half in a vise. This is just so nothing leaks out and you don't have to deal with any flashing, which is where the plastisol leaks out into different gaps around the mold. Now, I did have some issues where the first time I shot this mold, I forgot to wait for it to cool down and shot it at 400 and something degrees. This is the injector I'm using. It's just a cheap 4-ounce injector I found on Amazon. So the mold is a little warped, and that's going to cause some flashing issues later in the video. And it's not really a big deal. You can just peel it off or trim the skirt down a little bit. You'll see what I mean towards the end. But this would work better if I didn't warp the mold. I'm eventually going to reprint this and shoot some different baits in different colors when it gets warmer out, and we'll see how well they work at actually catching fish. Just got to wait for the ice to melt. Now you're going to want to mix this before checking the temperature, because it's just going to read the surface temperature, and I'm just using some cheap butter knife I found. And when I shoot it here, it's going to be 410 degrees. I don't really know how accurate those thermometer guns are. Mine was only 20 bucks, so I can't imagine it's too accurate. But you're really looking for somewhere around 300 degrees before you shoot it, so we're going to skip to when this mold's cooled down. So now that the plastic's cooled down to a lower temperature, it should be 321 degrees, we're going to be ready to shoot. Now you're going to want to be careful and wear gloves. The injector's going to get hot. You just don't want to burn yourself. Now this is a little hotter than I said, but like I said too, these thermometers aren't accurate. And you're going to want to suck up the injector, fill it up as much as you can. these molds don't take the full 4 ounces, and you're going to shove it in the sprue hole, and you're going to push down until you feel it stop. And once you get to that point, every mold's different, but you want to hold pressure for a certain amount of time. This mold seems to do pretty good at 10 seconds, and once you pull it out, you're going to fill the hole in the top up with plastic. You never want to let that run dry, otherwise you're going to run into issues with air pockets. And then I just pour the rest of the plastic back in the cup. Now you're going to want to wait to take apart the mold. A good rule of thumb is about 20 minutes, give or take. You're going to have to play with it a little bit. When I did this shoot, the middle cavity was a little soft at 20 minutes, so I probably should have waited 5 more minutes to do it, but it's just something you're going to have to play with. All right, now that 20 minutes have passed, we're ready to take apart the mold. We're just going to take off all the clamps. And you really want to be careful, especially with tube molds, when you're pulling this apart, because those skirts are very delicate and easy to break. So we're going to slowly pull it apart here. This is where oiling the mold is going to come in key. It's going to make the legs a lot easier to pull off, and you're just going to want to slowly work the legs off. And now you see the flashing at the bottom of the or on top of the base right there. You can just trim the legs down and get rid of that. If I crimped it better and I didn't warp the mold on accident, you wouldn't see nearly as much as that. It's an easy fix, and you can also use a screwdriver or some other small tool to help pull out all the legs, or you can just go slow with your fingers. You just got to play with whichever's better. Now we're just going to wait the 24 hours for this to set up. I don't know if it's really necessary for reheating plastic, but if you were to use plastic from scratch, like the stuff you get in a bottle, then you would. And then after that, we're going to pull off all the flashing and any little extra bits and anything like that, and we'll see you guys then. So that's going to be it for this mold today. It came out pretty decent. We're going to revisit this and inject it with some different colors. I want to add some salt to the bait. And we're also going to add some scent to it too and test it out when the ice thaws in the spring and use it for some smallmouth. If you guys have any questions about this lure, how to print it, or any suggestions to change it, please post that in the comments below. And if you guys have an idea for a new lure, I'd love to make them for you guys. Please post that too. The next video is going to be a 3-cavity worm mold. I'm printing version 3 right now, so I just got to test that out and then print it and inject it and record it and everything, and that video should be up. There's also 2 hard baits I'm working on now, and they just need a little more testing. So see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.